I'm Leandra Lederman, and it's time to break into tax. There are a lot of misconceptions about tax law, and this video collects a number of them. Don't forget to share it with your friends, like it, and subscribe to the Break Into Tax channel.
Hi, I'm Orly Mazur from SMU Dedman School of Law. One common misconception is that tax law is boring. But on the contrary, tax law is exciting. First, it changes all the time, so there's always something new to learn. Second, tax law impacts everyone, so a small change in the law can significantly affect your tax liability. And finally, understanding the tax law means you might be able to save taxes. Now that's exciting.
Thanks. Hi, I'm His Holiness. I'm a tax professor at the University of Richmond School of Law. And there's a common perception that a significant number of people aren't paying taxes. But all you have to do is go to your local bodega to know that that's not true. People pay state and local sales taxes all the time. And even at the federal level, people are paying payroll taxes and excise taxes, even if they don't have an income tax liability. So it's really hard to find someone who's not paying taxes.
Hi, my name is Caroline Chen, and I'm a tax professor at San Jose State University in California. I'm going to be talking to you about a common misconception. Why should I worry about taxes? I mean, I don't make enough money for taxes to have any impact on my life. Yeah, well, that's a misconception. But beyond filing requirements, you should file if you had more taxes withheld from your paychecks that you actually owed. And how would you know that unless you actually filed? And even if you don't have an overpayment of taxes, you might actually be entitled to credits. Credits reduce the tax that you owe to zero, and some credits are actually refundable, which means that after your tax is reduced to zero, if there's any amount left over, you'll actually receive that in the form of a refund. And so just because you think you don't make enough money to actually have taxes impact your life, they truly actually do.
I'm David Hazen, professor of law at the University of Florida Levin College of Law. Many people think that if they don't receive an information return, such as a Form W-2 or a Form 1099, they're not obligated to report the income on their own tax return. That's not the case. The obligation to transfer the information return falls on the person making the payment and depends on the amount of the payment. But the obligation to report the associated income falls on the person who receives the payment and applies whether or not that person receives an information return.
Hi, I'm Miranda Fleischer from the University of San Diego. One misconception about the income tax is that the increasing marginal rate structure is what makes it so complicated. That's not what makes it complicated. You know what does? Defining income.
My name is Lili Zechner. I am a PhD candidate at the University of Graz in Austria. One misconception about consumption taxes, so US sales taxes or the EU's value-added tax, is that rate reductions are always passed on to the consumer. In reality, price elasticity determines whether consumers or businesses benefit from the rate reduction.
A lot of people think you have to have studied accounting to be good in tax class. That's really not true. Tax is really about solving problems and being creative.
A common misperception about tax is that it only has to do with businesses. But tax actually includes so much more. In fact, tax is one of the most important areas for social policy and social and economic justice issues. So consider taking tax for those reasons too.
I'm Linda Jellum, the Ellison Capers Palmer Senior Endowed Chair in Tax Law at Mercer University, soon to be joining the faculty at the University of Idaho. One huge misconception about tax is that only students interested in business law should take tax. Wrong. As a lawyer, you will run into tax issues no matter what your specialty. Tort lawyers need to know how to structure settlements to lessen their clients' liability. Family law lawyers need to know how tax laws affect alimony, child support, and property distribution. Even criminal lawyers may want to know how to help their clients avoid tax fraud. Further, tax is a class uniquely useful to your personal life. Who doesn't want to know how to pay less in taxes?
I'm Professor Bo Baez, one of the tax faculty at the University of Idaho College of Law. One common misconception about tax in legal education is that it requires using lots of math. This is not true because the lawyer's role in tax controversies and planning is to work through the legal intricacies of the tax code with the accountants or software handling math. That being said, lawyers do use and need to understand math, but only at a grade school level. So if you're a humanities major, No need to fear taking a tax class.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Geringer. I'm a researcher in the Department of Tax Law at the University of Vienna. One of the biggest misconceptions about tax law, in my opinion, is that it's all about maths. Of course, maths is an important tool if we want to calculate our taxes, but tax law is so much more than that. After all, taxes are one of the main sources to finance the state's budget. So when we talk about tax law, we also have to talk about our perceptions of the state. For example, do we want the state to pay for a good education or a good health system? So you can see tax law is necessarily intertwined with other disciplines, such as philosophy or sociology, which, in my opinion, makes tax law one of the most exciting research areas.
I'm Connor Hasegawa, and I'm a second-year student at McGill University's Faculty of Law. Here's a misconception that I hear quite frequently. Tax lawyers are just accountants with law degrees.
Hello, my name is Goldburn Maynard, and I'm a professor at the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University. One misconception I've heard is that tax lawyers have a busy season in April. When I was a tax lawyer, there was no busy season in that we were busy all the time. The transactions did not have to do with tax return preparation, and so we didn't have a busy season in April.
Hey, quick note about misconceptions about taxes. This, March, yeah, that's not tax season. Well, it is, but so's that, April, May, June. You getting an idea? Actually, my peak is usually September and October as the extended deadline comes in. So kind of tax season runs all the time. And every single month, there's a sales tax deadline.
I'm Stephen Mazza. I'm a tax professor and the dean at the University of Kansas Law School. One tax misconception relates to the capital gains preference as applied to corporate taxpayers. While corporations can generate capital gain income, that capital gain income is not subject to a rate preference.
A common misconception about tax involves tax rates. Many taxpayers seem to have no idea how tax rates actually work. For the taxpayer who earns $100,000 in 2021, the marginal rate is 24%. Now, when I say marginal rate, I'm referring to the rate that's imposed on the highest dollar that this taxpayer earns. But the Joint Committee on Taxation's forecasting that the average effective income tax rate for that taxpayer will be 1.8%. And so you see the marginal rate is really quite different from the effective rate. It's really important to unpack this misconception for students who are taking tax law, of course. But really, I think it's important that every taxpayer understands how tax rates work, because it's the lack of understanding that allows politicians to float exploitative tax plans. For example, when a politician proposes a flat tax of 10% for all taxpayers, that type of plan appeals to some taxpayers because of the simplicity. But the sad reality is that that type of system would not be a winner for many, if not most, middle-class Americans.
Hi, my name is Margaret Reisner, and I teach tax at IU McKinney School of Law. A lot of employees working from home during the pandemic think that they are finally eligible for that home office deduction. Unfortunately, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 suspended this deduction from years 2018 through 2025 for employees. This is because the home office deduction for employees is a miscellaneous itemized deduction suspended through 2025 by the 2017 tax reform.
I'm Leandra Lederman. I'm the William W. Oliver Professor of Tax Law at Indiana University Maurer School of Law. One common misconception relates to what the money is called that you may get back at tax time. Sometimes people refer to that as a tax return, but that's actually a tax refund. A tax return is a form that you file. Thank you for joining us as we break into tax. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the Break Into Tax YouTube channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single new video. And of course, nothing from Break Into Tax is tax or legal advice.